Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Onboard. I'm your host, Victor Wright, and tonight we're talking about the information bubbles we all occupy. These bubbles are subconscious filters which influence what we hear, who we speak to, and what we say. Let's take a moment to reflect on the state of our country. We have liberal lunatics fighting right-wing dingbats, with new headlines of anger and violence littering the media every day. The change is not going unnoticed, as seen in a study conducted by the American Psychological Association. They found that 59% of adults in the nation said that the current state of America was the worst that they could remember. Pew Research surveys over the course of 10 years displays proof of an ever-growing gap between ideologies. The average liberal and average conservative are drifting apart, which could be one explanation for the amped-up resentment between the two. One reason could be a physical divide. NPR has reported that geographic sorting has occurred over the last decade. Liberals and conservatives have moved to communities they know they share their specific values with. We're increasingly surrounded by like-minded individuals, causing greater conflict and less compromise. If only there was a group of people that share the same fantasies I do. Wow, look at that picture. The truth is that this separation between beliefs has several underlying factors in our society, not limited to geographical divisions. Several influences, including the rise of technological advancements such as the internet, changing journalistic practices. I'm talking to you, CNN, ya puddle of stale piss. And our own behaviors are to blame for the polarization. The problem lies in our complacency. Our tendencies are to assume our dominant ideology is the popular belief. Once we get comfortable in our social bubbles, information begins to take the shape of a single perspective and overriding narrative. This is referred by psychologists as confirmation bias. Once we have formed a view, we embrace information that confirms that view while ignoring or rejecting information that casts doubt on it. In our attempt to avoid conflict, we filter out other perspectives of reality. Take, for example, the 2016 election. Many, it seemed, were ready to have the first female president. Before it was ever voted upon, people were complacent with knowing Clinton would be elected. Clinton's own aides, and I'm not saying like she has aides, just like her assistants, stay with me people, were popping champagne bottles on election day because they were sure she could win. This is a concrete example of people climaxing too early and everyone being embarrassed. The media sold the story of her victory and we bought it without even considering the idea of a Trump presidency or of the reasons why people supported Trump in the first place. Clearly, the majority of both Democrats and Republicans overestimated the popularity of the status quo, a false reality enhanced by media. These bubbles have always existed in the form of bias and avoidance. What distinguishes them from history is the tools of technology. While yes, it's not the system, it's the user, the internet allows individuals to compartmentalize their bubbles easier and more seamlessly. As stated by Eli Pariser, the effect of the algorithms on Facebook is as strong as an individual's own choices about which links in the newsfeed to click. If you think that you're doing something important by looking at your newsfeed and deciding which items to click, the algorithm exercises an equally strong bent. The internet is a double-edged sword in this regard. While our access to information is limitless, our own biases and complacency allows for several consequences, including ignorance and extreme villainization. Reality becomes spoon-fed to us in the form of suggested news outlets on Facebook or our friends' social media posts. Even more shocking, ease within your bubble means you are allowing a single narrative to dominate your entire reality. Look at you all, still believing the lies NASA forces you to consume. Thank God for people like B.O.B., who has started a GoFundMe to launch blimps into the sky to prove the Earth is flat for only $1 million. It's not enough to do anything, but he's trying to undo all the damage done in years past. Let's take, for example, our deficiency in knowledge regarding international affairs. The Global Literacy Survey asked 1,200 US students aged 18 to 26 to take a survey about geography, current events, and economics, and found that the average score was just 55%, which is coincidentally the same percentage of Hollywood celebrities being accused of federal crimes. Not only do we filter out the narratives occurring around the globe, but we begin to tune out and even antagonize those who express dissenting ideas and narratives, simply for being different. This is extremely dangerous, because when we fail to communicate with one another as citizens, we leave room for the government and media conglomerates to step in and say what they want, because they know the citizens won't bother to openly discuss facts and information. This self-censorship, which occurs often without our knowledge, can be dangerous, yes. However, we're not doomed. Just as SpongeBob eradicated the dirty bubble, we too can eradicate our own personal bubbles. 3 essential ideas that need to be adopted in order to create an environment where all individuals can discuss freely include an understanding of the difference between a good argument and a toxic argument, an avoidance of villainization of those who dissent from your beliefs, and an open mind, where you are willing to go out of your way to see other perspectives. An argument, despite the majority belief, does not have to be a fight. In a sounded argument, just because you are on the opposing side does not mean you must destroy each other, nor does it mean you have to convince the other person to change their view. Here are 2 simple rules for shaping negative arguments into more beneficial ones. 1, don't be a dick. You must remember you're attacking people's arguments, not the people themselves. Hostility and anger will easily create an environment where your opposition feels they're being personally attacked. Number 2, don't be a pussy. If you're defensive and quick to evade the conversation, this can also be a problem. Yes, you must defend yourself, but you have to recognize you will never be right all the time. Sometimes dicks and pussies go together like Netflix and chill, but in debates, they create a toxic environment that leads to nowhere constructive and certainly doesn't achieve a transcendence of your bubble. Rather than worrying about being wrong, embrace your misjudgments. We're all human and we make mistakes like I just did. Don't hold yourself or others to an absolute moral righteousness. When you begin to do so, you will lose focus of the relevant issues. This whole time we've been debating pineapple on pizza, but we're ignoring the deeper conflicts. The pineapple on pizza debate means we're losing focus on this one guy who put peas and mayonnaise on a pizza. If you put peas and mayonnaise on a pizza, you're a fucking freak, and it pisses me off so goddamn much. Gee, who the fuck does that? No, it's like, this isn't a joke. I don't know why that pisses me off so much, but like the idea that someone would do that actually irritates me. But really, it's unfortunate that individuals who voice ideas opposing the false consensus bias are stereotyped, unless, of course, you're putting fucking peas on a goddamn pizza, and ostracized from the narrative simply because they're getting in the way of the perceived majority opinion. Rather than instantly villainizing another for disagreeing with you, take a step back. Try and understand why they feel the way they do. Instead of discrediting them, whatever. When you always call the other side wrong and always assume you're right, no progress will ever be made. Once we begin to see past our bubbles, we can begin to repair the high tensions and lack of discussion in our country. It won't happen overnight. It'll start with small steps like engaging a plethora of content with an open mind and acknowledging different opinions. There are a lot of ways to do this, and one good place to start is on the subreddit r/ChangeMyView. I know, Reddit is usually a dumpster fire caught in a train wreck filled with small children. But bear with me. This is a site dedicated to mindful discussion about any and all issues, as long as you are respectful and open to conversation. Even if you don't contribute, you can observe what discussion should be, and if nothing else, that a society where civil discussion occurs is entirely plausible. Another suggestion? For every article you read from your favorite newspaper, try reading an article from a differing side. I want to leave you with a quote from the Boston Gazette in 1768. "By uniting we stand, by dividing we fall. Burst your bubbles, Long Beach State, otherwise you're allowing others to take advantage of your ignorance." That's our show. Thank you for watching On Board.